Something a little different today. I decided to come up with a champion ability for every legendary card. I thought about doing this for every card like I did with the evolutions, but this concept can only be taken so far, honestly, and I think the legendary cards are the only ones consistently complex enough to justify this type of thing. Like, what kind of evolution am I going to make, or champion ability am I going to make for the arrows or something like that? So I decided to just stick with legendary cards, and I have all my ideas written down here. I had a lot of fun making these, just like I did with the evolution ideas, so let me know what you guys think of a shorter video like this that kind of goes over a smaller aspect of the game, and yeah, let me know what you think of the ideas, any other ideas you have, and we'll get right into it. Tiers here are kind of confusing, so it'll make sense as we go along, but basically the elixir cost obviously refers to how much it costs to use the ability, and then some of them have a cooldown, and others are one-time uses, so you can only use it one time before the troop dies, and you'll have to place another one to be able to use it again. And it'll make, I know the champion abilities don't exactly work like that in the game with the actual champions, but trust me, as I get into these ideas, it'll make sense and you'll see what I'm starting to do. And we'll start off with the log, which is one of the very few legendary cards that's kind of hard to make work with this context, but it's out just barely long enough that I think you could make something interesting. I'm going to call it role reversal, and I am also coming up with names for all these because I think it's kind of cute how they're all named, alliteration, and I want to keep that going. So role reversal, you can play it for one elixir, and it literally just rolls backwards. It's one elixir, so it's basically nothing. You can get some extra value out of it, stun tanks for a little bit longer with it. It works well. It's just kind of something there. And then we got the Princess, who's going to be a 2 elixir card that gets on cooldown. She's going to launch what I'm calling the Arrow Assault. Very creative, I know. Quickly fires 3 shots that act as a more powerful version of the arrows wherever she last fired. So let's say she shoots at a minion horde, and then she wants to use the ability. She will shoot basically a big arrow spell, but fiery arrows, so they do extra damage, and maybe they could have some extra properties on top of that. Just like with my evolutions video, you can balance this however you'd like to, have the damage values be whatever you want, have the radius be whatever you want, but basically the idea is that she does an arrow spell, 3 barrages of fire arrows down at the last spot she just fired. I think you could have some really interesting interactions there. You could decide, and for 2 elixir, we're talking about much more. That's a much more valuable cost. So you could definitely be spending that on something better in certain circumstances. You do have to decide, whereas, like with the 1 elixir ones, there's not going to be too many of those because those the question is when to use it rather than if you should or shouldn't. But with most of the other elixir costs, you do have to factor that in. And I think it could be pretty cool for the Princess to do that, especially with the cooldown. And I did not specify the cooldown timer on any of these because I guarantee you, whatever number I say, somebody in the comments is going to complain that the number is too high or too low. So I didn't even bother. I just said it's going to have a cooldown on it. And that could be really annoying with the Princess because, she's kind of infamous. If you don't have the log, she's just going to stay alive for a really, really long time. Can get you a ton of defensive value for 3 elixir that way. And having this extra little bit of threat, this extra ability that she could use as a threat would be pretty interesting, I think. And that's why I kind of like coming up with these ideas. I think, like I said in the first video I made on Clash Royale, I think the champion ideas are super, super creative and cool. And I loved applying these to legendary cards. I don't think these should be in the game. I'm not advocating for these to be in the game. There's a lot of reasons they shouldn't be, but I still think there's a lot of value in coming up with these ideas. And I'm quite excited to get into some of the other ones, like the Miner, who's going to have a 3 elixir one, and it's going to be a one-time use only, and it's called Power Pickaxe. Again, very creative name. You're going to see consistently throughout this. I have the best names ever come up with by anyone for anything, just in general. No arguments there. Basically, it turns him into a heavier, slower. It basically ditches the shovel for a big pickaxe, and it does crazy damage. I'm thinking, we're talking 6 elixir here to use this thing total because you have to factor in the cost of the card itself. So if you're really, really confident that your miner's going to get a lot of value, you can basically double down. And that's what a lot of these 3 elixir ones are going to be. If you're confident in your card, you can double down and make it even more effective. And I think that's a really interesting bit of design. A lot of the champion abilities do capitalize on that, but a lot of them don't. And same thing with my ideas. Some of them do, some of them don't, but this one absolutely does. Let's say you get the miner over there and, your opponent has a really bad cycle. They don't have anything to defend it or anything good to defend it. Pop the ability, he's going to switch that pickaxe, and you could have it have the same attack speed as the shovel and just does more damage, as simple as that. Or my idea, make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more of a high risk, high reward thing. Very, very, very high damage, but super low attack speed. So he really has to get in there and swing, put a lot of force behind it. You could have some really fun stuff there. And yeah, I think that's about it for that one. The Ice Wizard's going to get Freezing Frost, which is a 2 elixir ability with a cooldown. And basically, it's just a big blast of frost that freezes everything in place in the area. It would be a very small AoE, probably even smaller than something like the Ice Spirit. And yeah, you could have it be like a large cast time too, so he really has to commit to it. And again, 2 elixir, it's 5 elixir for this thing, so it's basically a weaker freeze, and it's, very specific to that area. Plus, you get obviously the Ice Wizard on top of that. I think you could, obviously matches the role of the card very, very well. Just, freezing, slowing down troops. Obviously, be using this on a lot of tanks. I think it could work really well. Royal Ghost has one of the few 1 elixir abilities, actually. It's called, let's see here, Sneaky Spectre. Vanishes and only becomes visible again once it takes damage. So this could obviously have utility, and that means he can attack while staying invisible. Again, he has to take damage from something. If he has a splash card, any splash damage would be dealt to him, of course. Any like magic archer shot, any spells. So there's still plenty of counterplay to it, but it's obviously going to be useful to have it be invisible. Let's say there's a prince behind a giant or a goblin giant or something. He could just be invisible with the ability, and it's only 4 elixir too. So this would be a very, very powerful one, and maybe it's a little too broken. Maybe you could make it, 2 elixir. And either way, this is going to be a one-time use, I think, because again, what you're getting is super, super powerful. But yeah, I think, do I want to just make it a 2 elixir? I mean, I guess I could change my mind now, but I don't know. I think it looks a little bit better up there since we have a lot of 2 elixirs with cooldowns. We actually got another 1 elixir one in the Bandit. So this is called Dangerous Dash, and basically she's going to dash to whatever is closest to her, regardless of distance. Now, this could be absolutely busted, obviously. I don't think you could, put her right at the King Tower, like all the way back in your side of the arena, and then just use the ability and she just goes straight to the tower. Obviously, you'd have to put some restrictions on it. Maybe she couldn't do buildings or something. It would only have to be troops. But basically the idea is that I want to get her some really, really long extended dashes. I think that could be kind of fun. And otherwise, I would just kind of have to steal. I didn't want to use what the Boss Bandit does, and I also didn't want to use what I came up with for the Evo. So this is kind of a weird pick, but it's probably the best I could do given those restrictions. And then next up, we have the Fisherman, one of my favorite ideas, I think. At first, I thought about doing something with the hook itself, like the big hook shot. And I could make it really long, have him infinite range, kind of like the Bandit or something. But then I had a much better idea. It's called Shark Slap. He's going to whip out a giant shark, just absolutely out of nowhere, and it smacks a bunch of troops away. This one's going to be a 2 elixir, and it's got a cooldown on it. So I should put it up here. And yeah, this is a very, very powerful attack, and it can knock troops back, kind of like the Mega Knight does. And I think that could be really, really fun. Kind of helps what the Fisherman's trying to do, because if it's just one tank, he could literally smack them away, and then immediately, what's he going to do? Grab for the hook again, because he just acts like normal after the attack's over. But yeah, and it obviously could deal with swarms, could take out a bunch of skeletons really easily. It'd be a pretty, pretty powerful move, but again, you have 5 elixir to use it, plus, you get the Fisherman on top of that, so that's pretty interesting, I think. And then we have the Inferno Dragon, which is yet another one of my 1 elixir ideas. I feel like I had more of these than I originally realized. This one's called Fireball Fling, and it's basically going to turn him into the baby dragon. He can use this one as many times as he wants, which is very rare. I only have 2 cards. This is one of them, or 3? It might have been 3. I'm not 100% sure, but you can use this as many times as you want. However, it's going to very quickly start racking up damage, and it resets the beam, so you can't just... it's a bad idea to use it whenever, but if you wanted, say, there's a bunch of skeleton army and you really want to defend it real quick, but you don't have anything, you could just use 2 fireballs, 3 fireballs, which is, 3 elixir, but it's better than spending a real baby dragon. So you might as well use this. And again, if, you got the Inferno Dragon on, like the giant skeleton or something, and then there's bats around it, you could have it flip to the fireball and, take care of the bats. And you could balance it in a different way. Maybe not make it the baby dragon fireball specifically. Maybe make it like a big burst of fire around it so it can take care of all the bats at once or something like that. Minions or anything. I don't know. A few things you could do to make this work, but I think the idea is pretty solid. Then we have the Electro Wizard, which is a pretty damn expensive one. This is 3 elixir, just like the Miner. And literally, he's just going to sacrifice himself to the lightning gods and make a lightning spell. Again, could be a more powerful version of the lightning, could be weaker. It is 7 elixir to use it, so it's 1 more than the lightning, but obviously you get the Electro Wizard on top of that, and the radius would probably be like pretty small, like where he's at or something. You could do some cool stuff there, and it obviously wouldn't be able to hit the tower because the Electro Wizard never gets to the tower. Again, unless there's some tornado shenanigans or something going on, then it could, I guess. But yeah, I think that could be really fun, just a simple idea. And I decided to name it Lightning Lookout, which is a level from Donkey Kong Country 3. Reminds me I still have to work on that video, and I don't want to because I'm busy, and then I get home and I don't want to do anything. And then I just make one of these videos because they're easy and you guys are liking them right now. So we're just going to keep doing this. Now we got the Phoenix, and this card was the inspiration to make this video. This is a 3 elixir one-time use and is the only one that does not have alliteration. I'm assuming if this were an update, like God forbid Clash Royale ever actually release this stuff and charge like $10 per ability for each legendary or something individually, they would probably do something like that. But assuming they actually did put this in the game, I would think the Phoenix and this idea would be the one that shows it off. It doesn't necessarily show off the abilities the best, but I just, again, love the mythological creature, and I think it's really cool in Clash Royale, and I really want to see it more, and this ability would be great. So the Phoenix will just rise from the ashes like it's known to do, and there's going to be a massive pillar of fire. I'm talking this is one of the biggest attacks in the game. It's super, super explosive, does a ton of damage, and again, this is 7 elixir, plus the Phoenix is honestly kind of weak, all things considered, when, there's options like Flying Machine or Baby Dragon, ones that, obviously have a slightly different role, but I just never see the egg lay, so it ends up being a weaker version of other cards. But with this ability, it has a very, very standout attack and a really, really cool feature. On top of that, the new Phoenix that spawns in, the second Phoenix, will not lay an egg, but it will be slightly more powerful. And again, if this is too broken, you could get rid of this part of the idea if you don't like it very much. But I think it adds to it a little bit, means the Phoenix is born again. He's like born anew, and, new body, I think would be pretty cool. Have him have a more purple aesthetic to represent the Evos, or, have some other coloration to him that would make him even look cooler. I don't know. You could do something with that. The Magic Archer is going to have a 2 elixir ability that he can only use one time. It's basically going to turn him into a different troop, like a different mode that he's in. And this version of him is going to be able to fire the spread shot, which is 3 arrows instead of 1. Now, for 2 extra elixir, we're talking 6 elixir here for a card that dies to a fireball, so that is pretty risky. However, if you got him locked onto the tower and something and you want to activate this ability and spread out all 3, maybe you could literally hit the tank, the tower, and the firecracker, like with all 3 different shots at once. I can imagine some crazy things happening there. It would be really fun, and bump it up to 3 elixir if you want it to be more powerful or less powerful, because this does sound absolutely insane and really infuriating, but overall, a cool evolution on one of my favorite cards, and I think this would be a fun ability. And then we got the Lumberjack. I had a lot of different ideas for this one, but I actually decided to incorporate the evolution. Now, I'm not saying the evolution is required to make this ability work, but trust me, you'll see why. The evolution definitely is a big part of it. So it's called Rage Reset. Literally, it just resets the rage. This is going to be 2 elixir, so it's just cost the same as a rage spell. And I think the justification there is that if you have the Evo, again, we're talking 6 elixir, but you're getting such a powerful troop. I mean, the Ghost Jack, the fact that I heard it was called Ghost Jack in the comments, which is a great name. The fact that it can't be hurt by anything means it can just absolutely wreak havoc, and I think having it, be an ability, and it's niche too, you could use it defensively, of course, but not nearly as frequently, and a lot of times you're not even going to be popping this ability, but when it does work, it's going to be super, super impactful. Yeah, this is obviously a one-time use because there's only one rage spell and you can't just infinitely reset it. That would be terrible. Now we got the Night Witch, which is a 2 elixir card. One of my most simplistic ideas. However, just because it's simple doesn't inherently mean it's boring or bad. I really, really like this one. It's called Minion Magic, and she simply turns every one of her bats into a minion. Now, I thought about doing every bat on screen, but then I realized the only other bat card is the bats, and her turning those into minions would literally just be a minion horde. And since this ability is going to be 2 elixir, then, and obviously a one-time use, yeah, that would get absolutely absurd, and bats would be everywhere because you could just get a minion horde. I mean, technically it would be 6 elixir, but still you're getting the Night Witch on top of that, and with all of the minion bats too. So yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be pretty crazy. But yeah, I kind of like this one. I think it could lead to some interesting moments, some stronger defense, some stronger pushes, more durable troops, slightly more durable troops, like they're not going to be dying to zap or anything like you do with the bats. So I think this could work. Next, we got the Mother Witch, and her ability is 2 elixir with a one-time use called Hexing Hogs. When she uses it, the next 3 hogs will be Royal Hogs, or if you want to go crazy, more powerful versions of Royal Hogs. I think this could obviously be infuriating, but also really interesting and fun. I'd love to see what the hogs look like. I think this could be really cool. And, 2 elixir ensures that you do have to be pretty committed and confident that you're going to get value out of them because that's 6 elixir. Once again, you got to take the entire cost into account. So I think that could work pretty well too. And now we're getting into some 5 elixir cards, and the Ram Rider has a 2 elixir one-time use. And this is the one time where I just straight up stole my idea from the Evo video because there was nothing else that was going to work for the Ram Rider. She throws a special snare, like a more powerful snare, and it traps a troop. That means they can't move. They can still attack, but they can't move. Yeah, just completely stole it from the Evo idea, but what else was I going to do for her? If any of you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments. Come up with a better champion ability idea for her, or a better evolution for her, or both. I would love to hear some interesting ideas. But now we can move on to the graveyard. And man, I love this idea. I was struggling. I was like, how the hell am I going to come up with something cool here? I thought about doing something really lame and spawning like a tombstone or whatever in there, just basically the goblin drill, but way more boring. No, but then I finally got it because the tombstone had me thinking about graves, which is a big part of a graveyard. So here's the idea. Graves, it's called Growing Graves, and it's 2 elixir. So just like the miner, you have to be committed. Why have I not put this in its tier yet? We're doing 2 elixir, obviously a one-time use for this one as well. Basically, it's going to spawn little graves that have the same health as skeletons and distract the tower in the same way. So they're not going to prioritize the skeletons. The graves are going to be extra. Now, you could balance the number of graves however you'd want to, and obviously the RNG is going to be a problem, but that's how the graveyard works. Unfortunately, I just got demolished by a graveyard player, partially because it was my fault, but also partially because I got horrible luck. And yeah, I can know how frustrating the card can be, and this would absolutely make it more frustrating, but man, I just really like this idea. I think it's really fun. Almost reminds me of Plants vs. Zombies a little bit. Just great stuff. Oh, and I did forget to say the Ram Rider's ability was called Sticky Snare. Yeah, totally forgot to mention that name. I just realized. And now we're getting on to the next one. By far the most ridiculous idea, the Goblin Machine. Basically, with the Goblin Machine, I am adding another spell to the game. In fact, I am adding the most powerful spell that has ever been in Clash Royale into the game with this one. Why is my computer screen constantly... Oh, it's probably because I got my leg on the table and I'm shaking it. I apologize if the shaky cam is there, but I feel like a lot of people listen to this. That's kind of what these videos are designed for, more so to be listened to. I did do that one gag where I wrote out the tier name in the last video, but... yeah, for the most part, I just kind of make these to be listened to anyway. I just figured I'd throw my face on there because it's a little less boring and a little bit more to look at. But anyway, Goblin Machine is going to have a 4 elixir ability called Rocket Rush. And this one's a little hard to explain, probably my most complicated and most ridiculous. So he is going to fire rockets, those little rockets he normally fires on his back, at every single troop on the screen. I'm not joking. And on top of that, the machine itself is going to turn into a rocket, and however much health the Goblin Machine had, it's going to do that much damage, take that much damage off of the tower. We're talking about 9 elixir here, which is absurd, so this thing better be damn powerful, and it is. Now, I don't know if you could directly translate. I don't remember how much HP the Goblin Machine has. I don't know if you could directly translate. Like he has 1,000 health, you take 1,000 health off the tower. You might have to, do some adjustments, like 50% of his health goes to the tower, something like that. But the idea is basically that you add a big spell to the game, but what makes this spell unique is that there's a troop before the spell goes off rather than after. So you have stuff like the Royal Delivery and the Barbarian Barrel, which work like spells, and then they spawn a troop. The idea here is that we have a troop that turns into a spell. And also, I just went crazy with what that spell happened to be because I thought it was funny. And like I said, I kind of just had fun coming up with these ideas. They're not going to be in the game. And then we have the Sparky, who's going to get a pretty unique one. It's a 2 elixir one-time use. I didn't realize how many of these I had. I don't even know if there's a single 3 elixir cooldown now that I'm looking at it. Basically, 2 elixir, you are going to get a speedy shot. And very, very simple here. It can only be fired once, obviously. That's why it's in this tier. But it can be fired instantly. And that means right after the charge just went off, like you actually got one on the tower, you can fire another one again. It can be slightly weaker, again, balance it how you want, but the idea is that once per time the Sparky is out, you have that one trump card. You could just throw it out at any time, just that bam shot. And again, 2 elixir, we're talking 8 elixir here, so you better be committed. But usually you're going to put the Sparky in the back and you're going to build up elixir as you go. So 2 elixir probably isn't going to be that big of a sacrifice at the time you're going to be using it. And that's why I decided to bump it up to 2 instead of 1, because I figured I could get away with it. And it would be a little bit more balanced that way. And man, I just love this idea. I love the mind games you're going to be playing with your opponent. Like, are they going to shoot it off right now? What should I do? What should my strategies be to avoid this? And yeah, there's some really, really cool stuff you could do there. And I could imagine like skeletons getting thrown right at the bridge, like right before the Sparky hits your tank or something. It could be a lot of fun. Mega Knight's the last card with an evolution, and he's also going in 3 elixir one-time use, which means we are looking at a value of 10 elixir total here, which is absolutely absurd, and that is super, super high. But I think it could work for what we're going for here. Basically, it's called Mega Meltdown. He has a temper tantrum and starts pounding the ground like over and over and over again. Maybe you could have him like move tiles around if you want. You could have him like, bang, 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 like a little baby almost. Or you could just have him do like the air attack over and over again. Now, whatever you think would be the most interesting and funny. I love this one. It's simple, it's stupid, and it would probably be really goofy, but hey, that fits Clash Royale pretty damn well. So now we got one more to go. The Lava Hound, and this is our last 1 elixir one, so yep, the 3 elixir cooldown one went completely unused. That's fine. Still makes the tier list look a little more clean that I got it included. It's called Popping Pups, and literally you can use it as many times as you want. It's only 1 elixir. You pop out a lava pup. Now, if you really want to show the Lava Hound giving birth, I don't think you do. I probably hope you don't. Maybe she could like regurgitate it, which would also be pretty gross if we're being honest, or maybe there's just a little hole in the top of her, like a whale, like a blowhole or something, and the little pups pop out. I don't know, something like that. And basically the idea is that if you have the elixir, you can just pepper the arena with these little pups. This one is probably the most broken I came up with now that I think about it, because you basically need a musketeer or something, and even then, once it gets locked on the dragon or the actual Lava Hound itself, then this sounds absolutely broken. But hey, you know what? I just decided to have some fun with this one. Like I said, it was a pretty laid back and simple video, even by my standards. And hey, look at that. I actually have 2 bonus cards to go. I did not write these ideas down, but I forgot that the Dagger Duchess and the Royal Chef are technically legendary cards, even though they're tower troops. Do I have time to talk about them? Absolutely. Only 5 minutes have been passed so far in this recording. Awesome. I'm just going to throw these in 3 elixir cooldown because that tier is empty and it's sad. So I guess these are going to be 3 elixir abilities. How would an ability even work for this card? Maybe it's just on screen at all times. And yeah, okay, sure. So it's on screen at all times, and it's 3 elixir, and it has a cooldown. So I'm going to limit myself to that and try to come up with an idea. So the cooldown would have to be super, super long. You could use it 3 or 4 times per match or something, I'm thinking. You could be simple and just say Dagger Duchess for 3 elixir refills all her daggers, and the Royal Chef just cooks a pancake instantly. You could just do that for the abilities. Again, 3 elixir would probably be reasonable for those, but actually, yeah, that does kind of fit, I would say, at least, especially for the Duchess. I don't know quite as much for the Royal Chef. I think that would be... Yeah, I think 2 elixir would probably be more appropriate for that. You know what? We'll throw it up there. We're just going to call those the ideas for that because I'm really tired. It's 11:30 and I have to work in the morning, so I should probably wrap this up. But I'm not going to yet because there's one more thing I got to mention. What the hell is this? They announced a Netflix show, and now it's being animated, or at the very least, it's being worked on by the same person who animated a lot of the Clash Royale animations. Now, I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to do some more research, or really just any base level research to figure it out. They got to figure out, I don't know if it was the Clash-orama or the 3D ones. Clash-orama, I love the story of, and the 3D ones, I just love the animation of. So if this show, based on the screenshot, if this show combines the two, oh my god, like the storytelling of Clash-orama and the animation of the 3D stuff. I know it looks kind of generic nowadays, but even by now standards, the commercials are just so clean. Like the one with the witch and the tower getting knocked over, the one with the guards going after the crown. I think my next video could absolutely be ranking all of the card trailers or the evolution trailers or something, just because I love the animations and I like that they even experiment with different styles and stuff, kind of like the Smash Bros. Reveal trailers do. It's super, super cool stuff, and maybe I could do like a ranking video of that since, to celebrate the show coming out, and if you guys still want to see more Clash Royale content. So thank you very much. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.